What's going on, ladies and DeGents? Welcome back to the Distinguished DeGents podcast. I am one half of the podcast. I am Steve, Big Bucks Beyta, and unfortunately, my co-host, Jason Money Mansmann, is out this week due to illness. The man has completely lost his voice. So unfortunately, it is going to be a solo Big Bucks episode, which for those of you who did tune in, and hopefully you didn't follow my picks, because the last time I did this shit, I was dreadful. And we did the recap already. We went over all the mistakes, so I won't dwell into all that, obviously. But what I will say is that this week I have higher expectations for myself. And yeah, this deserves... Normally with Money Mansmann, we do these personal bets, but this week, this is a personal bet with myself. As you all know, we do the Cinnerator bet, where Cinnerator is like an off-brand fireball. It is like 93 proof. Money Mansmann and I dread having to take it, but this week because I'm on my own, I have no help. I have to go 500 or better. That's what you guys deserve. That's what I deserve. It's what Money Mansmann deserves on the solo episode. Hopefully he tunes in on the comments, but if not, we'll be all right. Either way, we're going to get through all 15 games. I know it's very late in the Saturday. It's very late today on Saturday, so we have 15 games to get through. We don't have a lot of time to get through the Saturday game, so I'm just going to jump right into it, folks. If I don't go 500, then it's a Cinnerator for me. Maybe a double Cinnerator, depending on how bad, but I won't get into the Thursday night. We just need to jump into it. Kicking things off Saturday night on ESPN, we have the Detroit Lions plus 4.5 road underdogs now, plus 190, going into Dallas. Dallas minus 230 on the money line, minus 4.5. The over-under is now at a whopping 52.5. Dallas is getting 98% of the money, 86% of the bets. I'm going to refresh my screen to make sure that's right. But until then, this to me, I think you look at this game, you look at where both these teams are at, you see the Detroit Lions literally winning their very first NFC North division title. And when you go back and you say, well, when's the last time they did this? And it was the NFC Central. It wasn't even the East or the West. It's the North. And the last time was the Central. Dallas is coming off, I want to say, back-to-back losses on the road. Now they're coming home. The line opened up, I want to say it was at 7. Now we're looking at 6.5 here. And it's kind of a smash spot for me, and maybe you want to call this a Barney Bester, but not my best bet by any stretch. But look, you're getting Dallas Cowboys. They're back at home. You're getting Detroit coming off their division win against a division opponent. They won a game that didn't exactly paint them in the best light because of how close and how back and forth it was up until that fourth quarter where they had that 10-point lead, and they just were basically able to coast the rest of the game and, keep it within one score. Dallas, back-to-back losses. They're back to being the fraud category, according to the sports media. I've said it before, and I think I'll say it again. Dallas is not that bad of a team. They find ways to choke in the playoffs? Of course. Do they deserve to be a 6-point favorite at home all of a sudden? I don't know, but now I'm getting this at 4.5. You're getting Detroit off of their Super Bowl, essentially. You're in a 3-way tie for first place. I think Dallas, the motivation there could be the division. The motivation there could be, if they win, they're all of a sudden in the race for first, where they get home field advantage, which to them would be, a very scary sight to see if you're an NFC team. Historically, Dallas has won 5 straight against the Detroit Lions. The Lions are in back-to-back road spots. They are coming off that road win where they only cover 50% this year following a victory. Dallas, first back-to-back ATS loss since 2022. Literally, it was actually a year ago if you go back and look, according to Stat News. And they haven't lost back-to-back games since 2021 with Dak Prescott under center. It's been since 2017 that they've lost 3 in a row. And the Lions, meanwhile, they're 5-13 straight up, 11-7 ATS as road underdogs under Jared Goff. They've won and covered 5 of their last 6 as such. So I think if you were lucky enough to get this line at 7 and 6.5, you're probably looking like you're doing good, and you probably get the chance right now to middle at that -4.5 on FanDuel. Other books I've seen at 5.5. So I would run over to FanDuel right now if you could. The Lions are just due for a regression spot for me, and honestly, this is just going to add more chaos to the year. I'm all about the chaos, so give me the Dallas Cowboys laying the 4.5 on the money line -230, which I'm going to edit real quick on my book. But as far as this over/under goes, I tend to lean towards the under, and this is only because of the supposed regression spot here. I don't expect this to be a very high scoring game if Dallas is going to win. This is going to have to be a game to me where not only Dak Prescott shows up on the offensive side of the ball, this is going to be more about the Cowboys defense at home in a more comfortable position. Jared Goff, albeit he will be in a dome, I've seen him on the road in spots where they've only put up 20 and they were lucky to get away with the win. Jared Goff, I've seen on the road give 3 picks away to Chicago. I give the Dallas Cowboys defense way more credit than I would Chicago. So, I mean, to me, if you're telling me it's a 30-20 game, this is definitely going to hit the under. But if this was like a 28-0 by halftime, and it ends up being like 35-6, like, would I be completely surprised? No. A Dallas Cowboys blowout, again, not out of the question for me. So, yeah, again, I lean towards the under, but honestly, the 4.5 right now on FanDuel, if you've already bet Detroit plus the 6.5, +7, +6, and you're getting 4.5, you can middle this, and the books would just be crushed if this game ended in 6. But yeah, as far as this over/under, I'm going to lean towards the under here, but not my best play. Moving on, though, we're going to Baltimore, where the Ravens are coming off that Monday night road victory in San Francisco. The number 1 AFC team hosting the Miami Dolphins, who are currently, I believe, sitting at number 3. Dolphins are 3-point road underdogs, +142 on the money line. Ravens -168, and the over/under sits right now at 46.5. Ravens getting 77% of the money, 62% of the tickets. And yeah, the Ravens, 5 in a row now they've won and covered. You would think to fade Baltimore in this spot, considering they are coming off of the biggest win this season. I'm actually going to fade the Dolphins in this spot. They, too, are also coming off one of their biggest wins this year. And this was a non-conference road team in the Dallas Cowboys, who just never seemed to be able to win on the road against good teams despite who they were, or really win against road teams that aren't the New York Giants or the Washington Commanders. The Miami Dolphins have also had, they had to get that win off of a game-winning field goal, and it was 22-20. It was very ugly, where they barely got the cover. Meanwhile, Baltimore, they go into San Francisco. They make a true statement win, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And Baltimore, too, if you don't forget, they have a revenge factor coming from last year. These two teams played way earlier in the season, and Miami, as a road underdog, actually went in and won, and they won off of a game-winning field goal on top of that. So I think for Baltimore, this is like another spot where they need to get a true statement win. Baltimore needs to get this win so they can essentially all but clinch the number 1 spot and have home field advantage all through these playoffs, which for Lamar Jackson, I'm very afraid if he goes on the road. I'm actually very afraid of him if he goes to the playoffs, period, which we already know is going to happen. But like I said, I think for the Ravens, must-win spot. You're going up against one of the top teams. I don't think this is a spot where you lay down yet. I think this is where you get up, you win this, and then week 18, you rest your starters. If you've clinched the number 1, you take it easy the next week, maybe even take the risk of a loss. It is chaos week after all. But the Dolphins as road underdogs, you tend to lose money. They're only 2-8 straight up, 5-5 ATS since last season. They've actually lost and failed to cover 3 straight as such this season. And they've actually only won 3 games as road underdogs since 2021. Ravens are clearly the better team. Play the Ravens, especially now you're getting -3. The line's gone down. Lock for me. Ravens -3. And for this one, again, again, it's a lean. I lean over because Miami does tend to have that explosive offensive power, and Tyreek Hill is always going to be a deep threat. And the Ravens secondary, I just don't know if that secondary has truly been tested yet. I'm not saying Tua Tagovailoa is like a really big deep threat quarterback, but like you can't discount Tyreek Hill. You can't discount Jalen Waddle. They have a really impressive run game. And I think the Ravens, in order to win, not only is the defense going to have to step up, but so is Lamar Jackson. So is the Ravens running game as well with Gus Edwards. So I think this over, it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I don't see this being exactly close going into the beginning of the game or exactly a blowout like we saw with Cleveland and the New York Jets where, by halftime, the over was all but hit. This game, I think it's really just going to come down to the wire. I think at 3 right now, you're going to get... I mean, this to me just seems almost like a field goal game. How many times have we seen the Ravens where they're up early and they're up late in the third, it's going into the fourth quarter, they have 2 scores, they go 3 and out, and then the opponent gets a touchdown. And then for 10 minutes, it's nothing. And then come 2-minute drill, the opposing team's about to score or tie. And then you're worried. And then it goes either into overtime or it goes into another last-second drive, and then there's just some crazy play. So, I hear the arguments for Miami at +3 if that's the way you want to go, but I just think for the spot and the situation, you have to play Baltimore. Week 18, maybe you fade them. All right. Third game on the 1 o'clock slate, we got the New England Patriots. They're coming off that fucking win against my Broncos, who I don't even know if I want to claim anymore. The Patriots are catching 14 points on the road after that win in Denver, plus 660 on the money line. They are traveling to, how do I put this? Jason Money Mansmann's Mecca, Buffalo. The Bills are laying 14 points now. They are minus 1,000 on the money line, getting 95% of the money here. 75% of the tickets, according to FanDuel. Yeah. Chalky as fuck. New England's coming off a huge game against Denver, in that Sean Payton handed to him essentially on a silver platter. Buffalo is getting an extra day's rest from that road game against the Chargers, a spot where even all the sharps said, bad spot for the Bills. They shouldn't be laying all these points on the road. The Bills have covered 2 straight at home against New England. They've won 8 straight now against division opponents, 5-3 ATS in those games. I think looking last week, it was, at least for me, right handicap, wrong spot, which I know it's a typical Money Mansmann joke I make with him, but I think me and him both fell for it last week against the Chargers. Buffalo, yeah, they're getting a fuck ton of points here. It's a 2-touchdown game, essentially, but if the Sharps come around and, they want to take the Pats, I'd reconsider, but it's been pretty mixed from all of what I've heard. And I just think this is a prime Josh Allen dominate spot. The Bills are going to get up here because they did lose to the Patriots the last time in Foxborough. This is going to be a big revenge spot. It's essentially a must-win also for them to get into the playoffs. I don't know. Do I really want to take New England? They're 0-2-1 ATS after a win. They've won and covered 2 straight as road underdogs, but, really, it's like, for me, it's more of like New England's coming off of a big win. Do I want to take them again? The answer for me is no. 3-7-1 ATS since 2022 after a win for the Patriots. And as far as this total here, the total lays at 40.5 right now. And at this number, this is going to be my over of the week. And there's going to be a lot of Bills trends that actually point towards taking the under here. They've had like 5 straight at home where they've hit this under. But 4 of the last 5 against the Patriots have hit the over. And all four of those had a higher total number than this 40.5 here. The Patriots offense has been improving in the last few weeks. They have seemed to have been clicking more with Bailey Zappi. But you also have the Josh Allen factor. We all know he can put up a 40 piece on his own, no problems. And the Patriots, believe it or not, they've averaged 20 points against the Bills in their last 5 matchups. They average 18.75 in Highmark Stadium since 2020. So I just think this could be a Bills get up early game. They start coasting, maybe get 1 or 2 more scores, and then the Patriots more or less just backdoor cover this over. But I could just see the over hitting by the third quarter. I mean, even the last time these two teams played, that number would have hit. I think it was essentially all but the third quarter that over would have hit. And then next thing you know, it's at 50. So I think 40.5 is wild. I don't know if I'm missing something. I don't know if it's going to be a bad weather game. But for me, over of the week, over 40.5, that number just seems ridiculously low. By the way, cheers, Money Mansmann. And that's your team. Good luck. God bless. Okay. All right, so we got through the first 4. Moving on. It's the Atlanta Falcons catching 2.5 on the road, plus 124, traveling to the Chicago Bears, who are minus 146 at home, minus 2.5 point home favorites. And yeah, that just, it wasn't the outcall, but the Chicago Bears as home favorites once again kind of makes me want to throw up, but that's okay. Yeah, there it is. Okay. I wanted to be on the side of Chicago here. Historically, they beat the Falcons at home. Look at this Falcons team. They're a dome team. They're going outdoors. Chicago's won 4 straight at home. Chicago's covered 4 of their last 5 since Justin Fields has returned. I think most likely it's due to the fact of their defense has been holding their opponents to 20 or less in 4 straight games. It's also because Justin Fields has been making less mistakes. He is playing for his career at this point. I think he's doing just enough to win games. And the ones he has lost, they were very, very, very close. The Detroit game, very upsetting fumble at the last second, cost me a big bet. Meanwhile, the Cleveland game, the Fail Mary, if Darnell Mooney just learns to hold on to the ball in a very weird spot, like, we're talking about a different team. Atlanta, horrendous on the road. Now you're getting Taylor Heineke in the cold, on the road, where he's won 5-1 straight up. Yeah, here's the problem, and this is going to be disgusting, but actually, I'm going to go ahead and not only take Atlanta here, this is actually going to be my dog of the week. Give me the Atlanta Falcons plus 124 right now on the money line. The problems I have this week is the Chicago Bears offense. They are very significantly injured. No Cole Kmet at practice. No Darnell Mooney either. And Justin Fields has a lot of turnover problems still, even in these starts, and even with the records and stats looking as good as they are. Justin Fields, he's had 3 interceptions and 4 fumbles. 2 of those fumbles being lost in those 5 games he came back from injury. Meanwhile, Atlanta, on the other hand, they are a lot healthier. They only had a couple limited participants, but everybody appears primed to start. We all know this Falcons offense will produce more with Taylor Heineke, but looking at the points per game stat, it's a whopping 8-point difference between Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke in games where those 2 quarterbacks start. Taylor Heineke, 26 points per game on average with the Falcons, whereas Ridder, in all of his starts, he's only managed 18. Atlanta's defense, too, by the way, they've been stepping up a lot lately. They have held opponents to an average of only 14 points per game in their last 5. And this is technically a win or go home type of game for the Falcons because they have real playoff contentions here. Not just for the division, but I think they're sneakily in the race for the wild card. Meanwhile, Chicago is like all but out. They're honestly playing more for pride at this point. And Chicago, with the limited offense versus a Falcons team and a win or go home, I could just see the Falcons going all out here with Taylor Heineke, even though he hasn't been good on the road. I think Heineke is, say what you will, but even on tape and on paper, Heineke just looks like the better quarterback. It looks like Atlanta I think you could give Arthur Smith all the shit in the world, but, was it the right start to pick Heineke at this point? You can only hope so. And I think if he makes the playoffs, you have to start to wonder if they're actually going to get rid of him at the end of the year, or if he does just enough to save his job, like most head coaches go through and end up losing anyways. So, again, say what you will, but it's hard, but I'm taking Atlanta plus the 3. I'm actually taking them on the money line. And this is an over 37.5 play for me. Heineke is actually good to get Atlanta at least 20, considering he's done that in 6 of his last 7 starts. But my better play, instead of the over 37.5, Atlanta right now on FanDuel is currently sitting at a team total of 17.5, and I want to say it was at minus 120. So I think that is essentially a lock, and I think that, when there's turnovers in this game that Justin Fields is known to do, the over tends to hit. So there's another prop that I really like. Justin Fields to get an interception, minus 130. That one's on ESPN Bet, but you can get it separately on FanDuel. I don't know what those odds are right now, and I don't feel like jumping back and forth. Last prop play I'll give too, Atlanta first half money line. 3 in a row they've hit on the road. They're 3-1-1 in their last 5 road games on the money line in the first half. 4-1 in their last 5 games altogether. Chicago 1-2-2 in their last 5. 2-3 on the money line in their last 5 at home in the first half. So I think you got, for me, I'm not going to say Atlanta, but for me, when that's where I'm leaning anyways, just take the Atlanta as an underdog money line. So, dog of the week, Atlanta Falcons. I know it's gross, but, could be worse. Kind of like this game. The Tennessee Titans, now 3.5 point road underdogs, plus 168. Traveling to their division rival, the Houston Texans, for game 2 of this series. The Texans currently laying minus 200, laying 3.5 points at home. The over-under 43.5. Tennessee getting 71% of the money, but the Houston Texans 92% of the bets. So this is very much a pros versus Joes type of game this week. There's going to be a lot of these situations, and you just kind of have to make your own assumptions, do your own research, and go from there. I think for me, this is going to be a wait and see handicap, because this to me wherever I lay on this is going to determine on whether Will Levis gets the start. Real quick, I'm going to see if there is any breaking news on Will Levis. It looks like he is in line to start, so no injury designation going into week 17. Okay, so this is the Will Levis line. I thought this number would go up, but now it's gone down. Man, this one's... I'll say this, Texans money line regardless. Mike Vrabel is a road underdog. Mike Vrabel is an underdog in general. That narrative is dead. The Titans have been 2-8 straight up, 4-5-1 ATS in their last 10 as road underdogs. And I just think that, if you're looking at the side of the Titans, it's more of you're fading the Texans as a home favorite because they just got their first cover as such against the Broncos the last time, if you remember. And in that game, too, Russell Wilson basically almost had that game-winning touchdown in the 4th. He threw that 4th interception and all but ended that. But, they were driving, and it was almost a completely different narrative. And the Titans, on the other hand, they could not win a game, especially a close game. They cannot win a game to save their fucking life. Close matchup, 3.5. If we're going to play the gun to my head game where I have to pick a side, one more time, I'll take the Titans. Plus 3.5. I wouldn't go any lower with them. Plus 3.5, I think it's just because of that half-point edge. I could see this being another 3-point game. I'm not 100% confident, though. I mean, Will Levis, he will pass the ball more. He will go more for the deep threats than any of the other quarterbacks. Man, the Titans have had 3 games all year they had won or lost by more than one score. The last 4 games they played, it ended within this spread. It ended within 4.5. So 3.5. I would say 3 or lower. Take the Texans. Any higher right now at 3.5, you gotta take the Titans. But boy, I have not been good on this Titans team all fucking year. So maybe I'm missing something or maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, from here on out, not a good pick. But if I want to take the public or take the sharps here, if the sharps money are on the Titans, this time around I'll go with the sharps. So, and as far as the over under here, 43.5. What did I have here? I had under 43.5. This is, the logic I had was CJ Stroud coming back from a 2-week injury. I wonder if he comes back rusty. I wonder if they put in an easy game plan for him because he did take that concussion. Are they trying to minimize risk? Are they trying to fight for the playoffs, or are they just fighting to win a game and leave it at that? It's hard to tell with this Texans at this point. The Titans are all but out, so I think they have nothing to lose, which probably would support their spread. But even their offense, they really haven't done so much. They really haven't done much, even with their offensive weapons and Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins, Chiga Okadzwe, or whatever the fuck his name is. I don't know. Like, for me, this is a dead under game. All right. Finally, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. They're coming off that big win against Kansas City. They're now going on the road yet again, back-to-back road spot, catching 3.5. They're plus 164 on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, minus 196 for Indy, minus 3.5. The over-under is 42.5, and the Colts are getting 84% of the money. They're getting 58% of the tickets. And if I had my soundboard, this is where I would play the slot machine button. But, AKA, this is going to be my best bet of the week, favorite of the week. Give me the Indianapolis Colts laying the 3.5 at home. If you remember last year, Josh McDaniels lost to Jeff Saturday in Indianapolis to the same Colts team. The same Colts team who did proceed to lose every other game after. Now, the Raiders locker room, I am sure those who were there last year are retasting that sour taste in their mouth from that game last year. Max Crosby especially. So there could be some very big motivation factors here. To me, they just beat the Chiefs, and they won off of turnovers and a lack of offense from Matt Nagy's shit play calling for the Chiefs. That put them at a whopping 2-5 straight up record on the road this year. Meanwhile, the Colts, they're coming off of a bad loss on the road to Atlanta. Now they're coming home. They're getting a Raiders team who had no offensive points other than 2 fucking field goals. And this to me just screams bounce back spot. And the Colts are favorites again instead of underdogs, which to me is a very good sign because the Colts are 5-0 straight up in ATS as favorites this season. And they've had back-to-back wins and covers at home as such. And even if the line somehow were to bounce back as the Colts being underdogs, I actually wouldn't be too upset this time around because they've covered 4 of their last 5 at home as underdogs. And, you get a team coming off of their big Super Bowl, the Las Vegas Raiders, and then you have this Indianapolis Colts team who has a 3-way tie right now for the fucking AFC South division. And not just a must-win to stay alive for the division. This is a must-win just to stay alive for wild card. This could be a big get-up spot for Gardner Minshew and Michael Pittman Jr. as well, on top of Jonathan Taylor. The way that offense, I know they can click. I know they can get up big early. So give me the Colts here. Laying the 3.5. Favorite of the week. Best bet. And this is a game where I'm going to lean on the under here at under 42.5 right now. 42.5. So, yeah, the Colts are a dead over team at home. They actually average 27 points per game at home. My concern here would be the Raiders in the spot because they are a dead under team on the road. They've only averaged 14 points per game on the road. Aiden O'Connell has 1 touchdown in his last 3 road games as a starter. And the Raiders defense also, Max Crosby in the front 4, they're always a big threat to go up against. And Gardner Minshew has not always done the best under pressure. So I could see there being some big stops here. And Atlanta even got 6 sacks on Gardner Minshew last week. So I think the Raiders defense has the means to do so, to even keep this close within a touchdown. But yeah, I have no faith in this Raiders offense to keep this close. And I just think this is a game where the Colts just do enough to keep it close and just get a big win and get a big statement win and go into week 18 with basically maybe the division win and you get it, lose and you're out. Or even if this is a big win, I could just see a situation happening where if they win and Jacksonville and Houston loses, they're guaranteed a playoff spot, but it could be a win and get the division or lose and you're a wild card, and that'll determine how I handicap them next week. But, for me, this is more of a must win. All right. Trying to move on here. So, moving on, we have the Los Angeles Rams going into MetLife Stadium up against the New York Giants. Rams are laying 6 points. They're minus 240 once again. The Giants are a plus 198 road underdog. And the over-under is set at 43.5. And the Los Angeles Rams on the road are the most public team. Not this week, because that is true. They are the biggest public favorite this week. They are the biggest public favorite this month. They have been the most public team to bet on football all year. They are getting, according to FanDuel, 98% of the bets, 99% of the money. And this line I have seen fluctuate from 6.5 all the way down to 4.5. Now we're back up to 6. It was 5.5 earlier this morning. I don't think it matters, man. Like, I could be wrong, and God help me. God help all the bettors if they're wrong. I've heard sharps on both sides here. Most of them siding with the New York Giants. Here's the logic I've heard. The first logic I heard was this just seems to be a bad spot for this LA Rams team just in general. They're a West Coast team going into New York. And, they've already had a bunch of big wins. The last time they went to the East Coast was Baltimore. They lost in overtime. They covered, though. So it's like this just could be a letdown spot. Which is weird because they play the 49ers next week. And in games where the Rams are the week before the Niners, they are 10-3 straight up. I've heard that it's weird against the spread for the Rams, that even if you take the Rams to win, you don't want to take them on the spread. Again, weird West Coast to East Coast spot. They've covered a lot. They've won a lot. I don't know if you want to do it. Well, it's weird to me because the Rams are 2-0 ATS as road favorites this year. I've heard the Rams coming off of a win ATS is bad. Also weird because they've won 4 of their last 5. They've covered 5 in a row. I've heard Matthew Stafford on the road is bad, which, maybe that's a point, but he is 4-2 straight up all time. He's 2-1 straight up on the road against the New York Giants in MetLife Stadium. I've also heard that they think Tyrod Taylor is much better for this New York Giants team, and he's going to be a bigger difference on the offensive side of the ball, which is the weirdest fucking argument I've heard of all time, because other than this fucking Commanders game he was in, which was honestly just a betting system play where you just take the Giants to beat the Commanders no matter what until proven otherwise, Tyrod hasn't really won any other game, and he had one other touchdown pass to be accredited for in all the games he started this year. And it was last week against the Eagles. A game they sort of backdoor covered as a 14-point road underdog. They still lost, by the way. Okay, so what's his other best game? The Bills, where it was a game they almost won because they lost due to a non-PI call. Well, they covered as a 15-point road underdog. Well, what the fuck did he do in the last 3 quarters and 12 minutes of that game to convince me that he should have been a starter? Oh, and by the way, yeah, so another one I've heard. Well, it's the Giants. They're a home underdog. They tend to be really good ATS. Oh, you know, the number we're getting right now, it's 6 points. Well, the Giants have won 3 of their last 4 as home underdogs. It's true, but those games were primarily under Tommy DeVito. And you're getting this Rams team with 10 days rest off of a big Thursday night football win. The Giants are coming off of a short rest on Monday Night Christmas where they lost to the Eagles still. And Tyrod Taylor had a half of football where it was a backdoor cover. I don't see the Giants being the right side here. I never got it to begin with, and the line dropped, and I wish I got it sooner, but I didn't. But honestly, even at 6, I'm still not that afraid. I don't see where the Giants are just the right side, and the Giants season is all but over. I've seen Tommy DeVito lose a lot worse games here, and all of a sudden he gets benched. And you just randomly pull him now with 2 games to go. I don't know. At the end of the day, I just really like the matchup between Matt Stafford and the Giants. This Giants team who does love to blitz. But I think Stafford and Sean McVay, they're going to be able to counter the scheme. I love the Rams in this spot, so I'm going to take them -6. This is an under 43.5 game for me. It's shocking that, I lost and got away from this stat, but the Giants have been a dead under team at home, and they play significantly worse at home than they do on the road. The Rams are 4-5 towards the under in road games. And I think that the Rams being as healthy as they are, this is going to be like a get up early and then coast the rest of the game on defense and just stop them. So under 43.5 is the play for me as far as the total goes. But yeah, Rams -6. Unless I'm told otherwise, unless there's something that really pops out to me, I just don't get where just the logic of it's a bad spot and okay, even if you say that Tyrod Taylor is a better quarterback than Tommy DeVito. I don't think that's really saying much. And I think that's the basis of a handicap. I don't know if you're going to win a lot of money with that logic. And maybe this is fading some of the sharps, but I just think some of the sharps, I don't know if they're on the right spot here. If we're back at 6, there might be some sharp money coming the other way. So yeah, give me the Rams -6. All right. Next up, we got the San Francisco 49ers laying 14 points coming off of a loss against Baltimore at home. Now a -950 road favorite going into the Washington Commie Central in fucking Maryland. The Commies are +640 home underdog. The Niners also getting 99% of the money, but 94% of the tickets. Over-under is currently 49.5. I have really just 2 things to say. Number 1, the San Francisco 49ers are 7-0 ATS in the regular season against the NFC East since 2021. Number 2, Jacoby Brissett. Is he better on offense lately? Sure. He is now on the injury report due to hamstring tightness and is questionable. So you're basically telling me I'm getting a Jacoby Brissett who may or may not start, and even if he does, he is going to be injured in the sense of his legs, where scrambling is one of his big things. Yeah, under 49.5, Niners -14. There's really no other logic I have. I did do the research for this, and maybe there's a stat I missed here and there. I could pull up DraftKings real quick and just see what they have to say, but for me, not necessarily a Barney Bester, but I mean, how the fuck do you even think of taking the points with the commies at this point in time? There's just nothing I want to do with this team. And even though they had a massive comeback against the Jets, but you looked at last week's game, I really don't fucking think that says much. And the Niners, they've covered 8 straight on the road. Commies have lost 6 in a row, period. I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I don't see where, even at 14, I don't even know if it would be 20. I don't know what this number would have to be for me to even think Washington. Washington's not a good team. They basically all but gave up. Jacoby Brissett, let's be honest, he's probably playing for another backup role next year. The Niners are pissed off they lost to the Ravens. I can see them coming in. They're tied for fucking first place in the NFC now. They need a win too. I could just see them coming in and bully balling this fucking Commanders team. I don't think they have any fucking shot in the world. So, and 49.5, that just assumes Jacoby Brissett's going to be able to do something. And unless it's going to be Pick Six City, it just seems like a too high number. So under 49.5, minus 14 for the Niners. Next up, it's the only non-conference NFC team on the road this week. It is the Carolina Panthers, the worst team in the league, traveling as 4.5-point road underdogs plus 188, going into Jacksonville territory, not that far away. Jacksonville laying 4.5 on the road, minus 225. No Trevor Lawrence this week. He is out due to concussion protocol or AC joint, or who really gives a shit. He is way too fucking injured to play at this point, surprisingly. Shocked they didn't play him anyways, but you know what? Jacksonville's going with CJ Beathard, and they're still 4.5-point favorites. Yeah. Oh, and they're getting 80%. Jacksonville's getting 80% of the tickets and 76% of the money. Okay. This is debatably going to be one of my worst handicaps ever. And I am scared shitless about this pick because this, I think, could be a make or break on whether I go 500 this week. I can't get on the side of Jacksonville here. I already mentioned the injuries. The Panthers have historically beaten the Jags in this millennia. They've won 4 of the last 5 matchups. And Jacksonville is terrible as a home favorite. 3-5 straight up, 2-6 ATS since 2021. And now you're getting a CJ Beathard. And maybe this is a bad line because earlier in the week you could have got the Panthers at 7. And I did grab this Panthers line at plus 7. And I'm worried still at 7 because it is the Carolina Panthers. And they are fucking garbage this year. They have yet to win a road game all year. And they're a non-conference road team, which they have not won or covered as such since they beat the Houston Texans. But the NFC teams in non-conference road spots. 8-15 straight up. They're 11-7-5 ATS since week 9. Now that it is CJ Beathard, I don't think betting any money on Jacksonville at this point is worth it. I don't know if it's just worth the risk, especially when you're getting the Jags at minus 225. This just does not seem like a lock that you would want to throw all your money on. And again, the Carolina Panthers are really bad. They are coming off a big offensive juggernaut performance against the Green Bay Packers. So there is something to wonder, did they already give it their all and still lose, but get a cover? And, for me, if I had to lay my money on this, I already got the Panthers at plus 7. I would sprinkle the Panthers and maybe a round robin underdog just to give myself a boost. But would I bet this money line straight up? No. I already got it at plus 7. Would I try to middle the Jags at minus 4.5? I don't know, at 4.5. If I could get it down to, 4 or maybe even 3.5, maybe I try to middle it then because it is Beathard. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Carolina is my only play I have here. And it is very ugly. I don't think I've taken Carolina all but once this year, maybe a couple times, but it's ugly. But I think sometimes these ugly games you just kind of have to own and go with it. So, as far as this total too, under 36.5, that's a lock for me out of anything here. This almost was my under of the week. My problem here is I just can't imagine a Jags team with CJ Beathard or a healthy Bryce Young with this Panthers team getting over 20 points each. And I know this total is a 21-14 type of game, but for me, I just think it's going to be less, and I don't know which side of the ball it's going to be on, so dead under game. I really don't have much else to say otherwise, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. We have 2 more 1 o'clock games. Oh, man, there's so much this week. It is the Arizona Cardinals catching 11.5 on the road, plus 490 money line for Kyler Murray, and they're traveling to Lincoln Financial. The Philadelphia Eagles are a minus 700 home favorite, minus 11.5. Over-under is 48. And currently, according to FanDuel, Philly getting 88% of the money, 85% of the bets. And I guess I'll start here. Arizona's getting a back-to-back road spot. And this time they're going into a way more violent, way more extreme, way more hostile part of the country going into Eagles country. I don't think I care, though. I mentioned this in the recap that the Eagles might be frauds. I know I mentioned that Kyler Murray was done, and I think that is true. I'm done pretending Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. I don't think it makes sense to lay 11.5 with the Philadelphia Eagles at this point, considering they just failed to cover, 13 against the New York Giants and a Tyrod Taylor. This Eagles defense just appears to be broken to me. I don't know what it is, but the ghost of Tyrod Taylor now has a starting job again after one half of football. They managed to shut down Tommy DeVito, which, cool, but I'm not that impressed. You ended that dream. The insanity of Tommy DeVito is over, and I just think if you're going to play the Eagles, you do it in a teaser, you call it a day. And I don't even know if you do it as a Wong teaser with 6. I think you just do it as a sweetheart teaser with 10 points. I think you take the Eagles down to 1.5. Maybe you take another big spread like the Bills or the Niners, tease that down a bunch and parlay them together to call it a day. Eagles haven't even covered 4 straight. And even if you want to call the Giants a get-right win, their defense did not just seem to be in sync. Their defense seemed to still struggle against a Tyrod Taylor. Now you're getting a Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, who I think are better than the New York Giants. I know that's not saying much. I know there's probably a lot of disagreement there, but Kyler still has a positive record on the road as a quarterback. I wouldn't throw Arizona money line in any round robins by any stretch, but the Eagles as a money line bet, sure. The Eagles could win, but do you it's minus 980 at this point, minus 700. But I can't get behind 11.5. That just seems like a lot. So for me, this is Cardinals to cover, but Philly to win. And as far as this over-under goes, I'm going to actually lean on the over this time around. And I think I lost my stats here, but the Eagles, I think, are going to be good for at least 21, 24. And Arizona, I want to say they have a better totals record as far as being on the road compared to when they're at home. I mean, if you remember, they went into Pittsburgh and scored 24 up against the Steelers defense. And the way the Eagles defense has been, not that impressive. Their secondary has a lot of questions still. And Kyler Murray, I mean, other than the rush, he pretty much has a deep ball to Marquise Brown. And he has a Trey McBride at tight end, which I think could be a big threat. So, kind of a lean. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But give me the over 48 here. All right, last 1 o'clock game. we got the New Orleans Saints plus 2.5 road underdogs with Derek Carr, plus 118. Bucks with Baker Mayfield minus 2.5, minus 138. Over under 42.5. New Orleans are getting 59% of the money, but the Bucks are getting 71% of the tickets. Even though the Bucks are the better spread team at 10-4-1 compared to the Saints who are 5-9-1. Even though the Bucks are in a must-win situation for the division at 8-7, and the Saints are 7-8. Normally, I would lean the Saints here in this spot because they do seem to have the Bucks number. A lot of the sharps I've heard, besides SGPN and the Action Network, where they, I think, split, I've heard a lot of the sharps are actually on the side of New Orleans here. I don't think I can back the Saints in the spot because, bottom line, you're getting Derek Carr on the road, outside, even though it's in Florida. No, truthfully, the Saints don't have Marshawn Lattimore here to shut down Mike Evans, and that's going to be a big difference. I don't think Marshawn Lattimore is even going to be on the field. I don't even know who's going to cover Mike Evans here. The way Baker Mayfield and this Tampa Bucks team has been playing has been stellar. They just look like a winning team. They just look like a team that you want to back. They look like a division winner compared to any of these other AFC South teams. Don't really have much other to it. So I'm backing Baker and the Bucks here, not just to win the division, but to win my Caser bet against Money Mansmann. And hopefully that's the case, but if not, we'll see. Over 42.5 for me here. Again, slight lean. I know both of these teams are dead under teams, but the number does seem kind of low. I think the Bucks defense, we've seen with Todd Bowles, they've been very susceptible at times. God, what is his name? Chris Olave. I don't think Michael Thomas is playing, but, the Saints passing game, they've had moments where they've shined. I know Derek Carr can get the deep ball every now and then, so this could just be a very much back and forth shootout situation. This might be the game where nobody expects it, nobody maybe wants it, but that's the game that is very back and forth because there is two division opponents. The division is essentially on the line. Playoff hopes are on the line for both of these teams. Chaos tends to ensue. So, as far as this goes, I'll take the Bucks under a field goal and give me an over here. I just, normally these games will go under, but 42.5 just seems low. All right. Back into the 4 o'clock slate, we have the other non-conference game this week. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off the big win against Cincinnati. Now they're traveling all the way to the Seattle Seahawks as 4.5-point road underdogs, plus 176. The Seahawks are minus 210 home favorite. Over-under is 41.5. Seattle getting 74% of the money, 67% of the tickets, according to FanDuel. And this one is actually like the hardest one for me to handicap. I spent the most time on this because on one hand, this is a Seattle Seahawks team at home where they've been very successful, 5-2 straight up, 3-3-1 ATS. On the other hand, it's Mike Tomlin as a road underdog, which it actually used to be an autoplay, but lately they've dropped their last two as such. And historically, since last year, they've only gone 7-5 ATS. On top of that, they're a non-conference road dog traveling all the way to the West Coast for a 4 p.m. game where they actually have had success. They're 6-3 ATS versus the NFC since 2022. They've covered 3 straight on the road. I just personally don't like betting on Mason Rudolph on the road, especially in Seattle, a very volatile road environment where it gets very loud and it can get complicated very quick. Seattle has actually had 4 of their last home games end in 4 or less points. Currently, the line, like I said, it's at 4.5. Right now, at 4.5, I lean Pittsburgh to cover, but if it drops to 3.5 or lower, then hammer Seattle. And this is a situation where like you just have to look at the line where it's at the time you want to bet it and go from there. I think Seattle is the better overall team, even if their defense is still lacking and is susceptible. I expect this to be a very back and forth type of game. So with that, I do lean on the over. It is only at 41.5. I could see Seattle's pass game getting the better hand of this Steelers secondary. And on offense with Mason Rudolph, they've looked the best that they've looked all year. So, it seems very low at first, but is 34-10 out of the question either way? No. Is 28-20 out of the question? No. This could be a massive Steelers letdown spot either way because they came off the big win against Cincy. So are they going to be able to do this again in Seattle? I just don't think so. But that doesn't mean Seattle's defense is all of a sudden going to step up. So for me, this is an overplay. AFC teams in non-conference spots, by the way, they're 2-8 straight up, 2-7-1 ATS since week 10. But like I said, at a number, recency bias be damned. 4.5, you kind of have to take Pittsburgh. I don't know if I want to lay 4.5 with a Geno Smith coming out of his second game. But, yeah, kind of a numbers play. That's really all I got to say at this point. We only got 3 games left, folks. 2 4 o'clock games and then 1 Sunday night. I still got 2 of my other best bets to get out there, so let's jump into this. Next up, it's the Cincinnati Bengals catching 6.5 on the road with Jake Browning, plus 235 underdog. Going into Arrowhead Stadium, Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City, laying 6.5, minus 290 on the money line. The over-under currently sits at a 43.5, where Kansas City is getting 57% of the tickets and 72% of the money. Oh, boy. I hate Kansas City so fucking much. They are like... I feel like Kansas City is turning into the new fucking New England Patriots, where they're like the dominant team of the AFC. They're Super Bowl contenders every year, and the minute a play call doesn't go their way, they've now turned into the crybabies. They're turning into the bitches that like half of the fucking NFL fan base has already known. And it's like we're already sick. Like, it's only been 5 years. Like, think of it this way. It's only been since 2018 since we saw Patrick Mahomes. He's won less Super Bowls in that time than Tom Brady, but has been in just as much, I want to say. And it's like we're already sick of him. And you have to start to wonder, is this like the downfall of the Kansas City Chiefs? 2 months ago, I think all of the NFL fan base would have been in love with this game because it was Joe Burrow, Kansas City Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes once again. Now, I not only hate this game, I fucking like despise the idea of having to handicap this. Jake Browning or crybaby Mahomes with receivers who can't catch COVID. God damn it. I don't know who to back. I don't know who to back in this spot. The Bengals had their come to Jesus moment this week. They had such an ass whooping on Christmas. It wasn't even fucking close. It ruined my fucking holidays. Well, that's not true. It didn't ruin my holiday. Ruined my fucking fantasy week. It ruined Christmas. They got carved up by Mason Rudolph. And it was his worst career performance. 3 interceptions and a fumble. Then you look at the goddamn Chiefs. And the fucking Chiefs also lost at home on Christmas against the Raiders, who had no touchdowns on offense. No touchdowns. They had 6 field goals to account for offensive scores. 2 back-to-back defensive turnovers for scores, and they beat the Chiefs. I don't know if this is a when in doubt take the points or when in doubt you just take the home team and let it ride, but I'm leaning towards the points. I hate this. I'm taking the Bengals plus 6.5. I don't even know if I'd be. I kind of am tempted to take the Bengals money line. I just don't see. God, the Chiefs have been bad at home too. Uh, I mean, I'm looking between the two numbers here where I want. I'm gonna go with the Bengals. Just give me the fucking points. Here we go. Here's why. Jamar Chase coming back is the big X factor for me. The Bengals offense has looked a lot better with Jamar Chase, even with Jake Browning, than last week without. You saw the big difference there. Now that he's coming back, and he's also coming back extra motivated. He's already talking shit to Kansas City. He's pissed off about last year when they lost in the playoffs, in a game they probably should have won. So the motivation factor's there. The Chiefs have been beyond dreadful on offense. They've been really bad at home. 3 in a row at home they've lost now. They failed to cover as home favorites. And by the way, this is a stat I heard on the Action Network, so I can't take full credit for this. The Chiefs have been one of the worst second half teams in the NFL. Currently, according to EV Analytics, 2-6 ATS in the second half and 2-6 ATS in the first quarter. They are actually tied for worst fourth quarter team with the Baltimore Ravens. 5-10 ATS all year and 2-6 ATS at home. I could just see this being a very late. Again, we've seen this before with Joe Burrow, but I could see this again with Jake Browning. I could just see another late game, last minute field goal type situation with Evan McPherson, game on the line, that we're just used to seeing with these two teams anyways. And, the number is low at 43.5, but how many of these games have the defenses both stepped up? And, this is like the fourth time we're getting the Bengals and the Chiefs, and you're just expecting offensive explosion after offensive explosion, and you just get left with disappointment and, fucking sadness. So for me, this is a dead underplay, and with that said, this is my under of the week. The Chiefs have not hit the over except for one game all year at home. They are 7-1 this year towards the under. And, again, it's like I've said, this game's going to be close. It's going to be closer than people think. This could be 23-20, 2017. We've seen a lot of Jake Browning football come this way anyways. I've seen a lot of Jake Browning showing up late. So would it shock me if Andy Reid gets up 20-0 early and then coasts until the fourth quarter? No, it wouldn't shock me one fucking bit. So I expect it to be, I expect this to be a late last second game like all these other Chiefs-Bengals games have gone. So yeah, give me fucking Bengals plus 6.5 under 43.5. That would be a decent parlay. I think you could get 2.5 to 1. All right, last up for the 4 o'clock slate. I avoided it as long as I could. It's the Broncos, minus 3.5, minus 188, home favorites, hosting the LA Chargers and Easton Stick. Plus 3.5, plus 160. And for those of you who haven't heard by now and have not caught the recap episode where I raged for a good 5 minutes, no Russell Wilson here. But the books still expect them to lay 3.5 at home. A Broncos team who has not covered 2 points as home favorites since Drew Lock. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to my fade of the week. We are fading my favorite fucking team, the Denver Broncos. Fade the fuck out of them from here on out the rest of the year. Take the Chargers plus 150 or plus 160, whatever they are now, and take the 3.5. I still cannot fucking believe that with 2 games to go, back-to-back division games, this is a situation. Your playoffs are on the line. You still have a decent shot if Kansas City loses out, or even loses 1 game. You fucking bench Russell Wilson after all the money and after playing all the way through week 16 You're going to put in Jarrett fucking Stidham. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't care how emotional this pick sounds. I cannot fucking stand the Chargers either. I cannot believe that in a dead cat bounce, they still lost to the Bills and they still somehow covered a big spread. Once again, though, with the quarterback changes, I don't give a fuck. How the fuck are you going to back Jarrett Stidham as a 3.5 point home fucking favorite? I don't care that Denver's won 9 of the last 10 at home against the Chargers. I don't care that they just beat Easton Stick 2 weeks ago. Sean Payton is going to look like the biggest fucking fraud of a head coach since fucking the college guy that showed up at the last minute and fucking got on ESPN and got their asses kicked. And you're going to play in this loser fucking mentality, Jarrett Stidham. Why? Because you don't want to pay Russell Wilson an extra $33 million up front and instead pay him the next year, even though all the money's guaranteed anyways. Even though when you told him the week they beat the Chiefs, you're going to bench him if he doesn't adjust his contract. And he says no. You let him start another 6 fucking weeks? No, let's go with Jarrett Stidham now. Because we lost 1 game. Well, they actually lost more than that. But you know what? Like, I don't know, man. The logic is just so dog shit to go with Jarrett Stidham at this point. Who, by the way, 0-2 as a starter. You want this guy to lead the team over a Russell Wilson. The same Russell Wilson who has 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, a 98 QBR. You want a Stidham who has 6 touchdowns and 7 picks in his career. And you think this is going to spark the offense. The same offense with no Courtland Sutton, no Tim Patrick. This is so fucking asinine that the public is on Denver here and they think this is a bounce back. It's so And again, this is coming from the Broncos fan. This is so fucking bad. I cannot fucking... Like, this is going to fix the fucking shitty play calling that they've done all year. Or the shitty offensive screen passes and halfback draws that Joe Lombardi's been fucking calling on offense for the Broncos. The shitty clock management Sean Payton's done all year. Oh, how about this, Sean Payton? How about you do another onside kick on the opening kickoff? I'm sure that'll fucking work, dickhead. Or how about Jerry Jeudy? Could he catch the fucking ball for once? Like, that's gonna fucking occur here. That's why we're gonna lay 3.5. Like, really? This Chargers defense, not so shockingly, somehow, like, without Brandon Staley, looked better. And now we want to run to the book. Oh, there's no Russell Wilson. There's no Courtland Sutton. Please take my money. Please take all my money for the Broncos to win by 4. Will Lutz is going to shank another field goal in the middle of all this ranting, by the way. Oh, look, Marvin Mims. He's going to fucking fumble the ball, too. Look at that. But somehow this is all Russell Wilson's fault. We're all going to run to the books. Please take my money. Broncos minus 3.5. Please give me money on Jarrett Stidham. Like, he's going to light them the fuck up. I can't fucking do this shit with this. I fucking am so mad. I am so fucking pissed. I don't wish injury on anybody. I never do. I've been injured myself. Like, I've broken my leg. I know shit hurts, but, like, I hope Jarrett Stidham gets, like, a grade 1 concussion and has to get pulled for concussion protocol. Just so I can see Russell Wilson take 30 knees all fucking game. Oh, Jesus Christ. No way. Denver is one of your favorite plays. No. No, this is asinine. That's bad. I can't get behind that. No. What the fuck? This team, really? Like, we're really going to do this. We're going to go... Bad letdown spot. They are in Denver. They tend to lose there. They've lost 9 of their last 10. No Keenan Allen again. Austin Eckler still hasn't done dick. So, not the worst logic, but I cannot get behind this fucking Denver team. There's just no fucking way. I'm not running to the books and betting -3.5 on Jarrett Stidham. Like, you have to be fucking asinine. Like, before I even lay points on Jarrett Stidham, how about he wins a game? Can he win a game as a starter before I lay points with him? If this was a pick'em, Chargers might be a better fade. But I'm not laying 4. I wouldn't even lay 3 or 2. Like, Jarrett Stidham needs to win. But, and again, this is why in the fucking offseason, I said, hey, Broncos, 9.5 wins, under. How about we get to 500 first before we lay money on them to be successful? Which is fucking sad, because I think with Russell Wilson here, I think you have a decent chance of hitting it. But no, they want to bench him all of a sudden. Fucking absurd. No, and give. What's the total here? I haven't even given the total yet. 36.5 now. It went down. Well, I already like the over here, so yeah, over 36.5. Chargers could fucking blow him out. I've seen what fucking Easton Stick could do against the Bills. I saw what he did against the Raiders. He still got 21. The offensive numbers for Easton Stick have actually been like mildly impressive, despite the fact he's been playing second stringers. But let's be honest, that's what Denver is at this point. They're just a second string team. They're no good. Like, Denver is literally playing to quit. And Sean Payton is literally, I guarantee you, by halftime, if they're down, he's going to put in the second stringers just to see who he has. This just has, like, over Chargers win all over it because Sean Payton gives up. What a fucking fraud. I can't believe we gave up a future for him, too. Ugh. All right, last game. It's the Green Bay Packers Sunday Night Football. +1.5 road underdog in a pick'em spot, -108, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who are -1.5 point home favorites, and their over-under is 43.5. And the Vikings are getting 94% of the money, 71% of the bets. This is like another pros versus Joes game here. And this is another Monday or Sunday Night Football pros versus Joes. This is ugly. I hate this. I'm probably on the side of the Joes. And I think all the sharps I've heard are all over Minnesota here. I do believe this time around that they have a lot of good points. I think they originally were handicapping Nick Mullins on some of these episodes. Some of these guys were talking about Jaren Hall as an improvement at quarterback. And don't get me wrong, I think I made the very same statement when they traded for Joshua Dobbs. And I said, why aren't they playing Jaren Hall? I think he's going to have a bright future. I think he could be the starter down the line, but I just don't like the move right now because Nick Mullins still looked pretty serviceable. He had one bad game. They lost by 6 to the Lions, and they're already moving on from him and going to Jaren Hall as a QB4 at this point. And now, what's the handicap? Justin Jefferson's back. Oh, well, Jair Alexander is suspended from the Green Bay Packers. Like, no offense to the fucking Sharps here, but Jair Alexander hasn't really done dick all year for the Packers. He's only been in 5 fucking games. They lost 3 of them. He's had no interceptions and only 4 passes deflected. 1 tackle for a loss. Like, I don't think it's exactly the biggest miss in the fucking world that Jair Alexander is not in the fucking game. So I just think that point is mute. And you know, this is a big miss for the Packers. Like, really? Like, he was in last week against the Panthers and they gave up 30. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I hear these points. It's like Green Bay on the road. Yeah, they suck. They haven't been good on the road. They haven't been good in Minnesota. I don't know if I'm going to trust a rookie quarterback in his debut against a division opponent where you have Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator, who I'm sick and fucking tired of, you know, people saying that Brian Flores is going to fucking come up with a great scheme. Brian Flores could stop this team. Brian Flores' defense could, you know, get a win. You know what that sounds a lot like to me? It sounds like the fucking New York Jets argument. Well, Brian Flores is a good DC. He could find a way to scheme. And he's lost 4 of his last 5. Since Josh Dobbs came in the picture, the Vikings are 1-4 straight up. Their only win was 3-0 against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I just think the recap with Brian Flores, it still holds true. Their defense, either their defense isn't good or Brian Flores is not a good DC. And in all these close games, he has choked more than he has been successful. Minnesota has not won or covered as a home favorite all year. So all of a sudden, right now, with like a pick'em situation, you want to back it here? When they've, like, let's be honest, I think the Raiders are a worse team than the Packers, even though I think those two teams played already. Forget the score, but, you know, I just think it's weird. Like, I normally don't like to bet the Packers on the road, but, like, the Vikings lately, without Kirk Cousins, they have just not been winners. They have not been the team I really want to back, and every time I have, they've seemed to have screwed me one way or another, so I think I'm just done with it. And I'll end it with this. We're talking about the total over under 43.5. I'm taking the under here. And as like this is like a prove it game for Jaren Hall. Like I think I need Jaren Hall to prove to me that he's better than Nick Mullins. But I could just see in the second half, if he doesn't get it going, I could see him being benched again for Mullins. And Mullins has to come in and play hero ball or come from behind football and just making a lot of mistakes where Green Bay's defense does end up taking over. Like 21-10, 24-10 does not seem out of the picture. I don't even know if this gets to 40, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm taking the under here. And like, I know we don't have a Monday Night Football game, but unders have been a big hit in Sunday Night Football. I think there's only been like 2 all fucking year that have gone over. So big underplay for me here. And if it's going to be an under game, and we've seen Minnesota in primetime against Chicago. We saw them against Denver. We saw them against the Niners. That was the one game they showed up with Kirk Cousins. And again, it wasn't really a whole lot of scoring. It was more like defense, but again, like I'm just not impressed with Minnesota right now, and I just don't like the move to Jaren Hall all of a sudden. Again, like the Broncos, it seems like a give-up spot. So, yeah, give me the Packers on the road, covering 1.5 in the pick'em, and give me the under 43. Well, ladies and DeGents, that is all 15 games left for the Week 17 slate. I'll give you my best bets one last time before I sign off. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a like, give us a comment, and give us a follow out on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at DeGents Podcast. Check out our episodes on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Best bet of the week, give me the Indianapolis Colts minus 3.5. My dog of the week, give me the Atlanta Falcons plus 132. Fade of the week, we are fading the Broncos as home favorites against the LA Chargers. We are fading that whole situation. I want nothing to do with it. Under of the week, give me under 43.5 for the Cincinnati Bengals, Kansas City Chiefs. And my over of the week, give me over 40.5 for the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots game. With that said, I am Steve, Big Bucks Beyta. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for checking out the Distinguished DeGents podcast. As we always say, go make that motherfucking money, and good night, folks.